I bet you've never heard of a dad who was actually counting down the days for his wife to die just so he could kick his own daughter out. Just 3 days after my mom's funeral, my dad was standing in her favorite room, holding her will, like it was a winning lottery ticket. $33 million, the house total control, everything he'd been waiting for. He looked at me with this cold, calculating look I'd never seen before and said the words he had clearly practiced. Pack your stuff. Your mom isn't here to protect you anymore. But what he didn't know was that my mom had been watching him too. For 2 years, she'd written down every cruel thing he did, every time he stole credit for my work, every single betrayal. While he was waiting for her to die, she was building a trap. A legal trap that would ruin him the second he thought he'd won. Hey everyone, I'm Emma Sullivan. I'm 32 years old, and today I'm telling you how 8 years of humiliation ended with my father losing his entire empire in front of 300 people, all because he couldn't fake being a good person for just 30 more days. If you're watching this, please subscribe and drop a comment, letting me know where you're from. For 8 years, I was the ghost architect at Sullivan Development Corporation. My father, Robert, was the CEO. He was the face on magazine covers, the guy accepting all the awards for his innovative designs. I was the intern who never left. Even with my MIT degree, drawing up plans at 3 a.m. while he took the credit at 9 a.m. board meetings. Emma's here as a learning opportunity, he'd tell clients when they saw me sketching in the corner. In a family business, you have to teach patience before leadership. My mother, Catherine, would try to step in. Robert, she designed the whole Metro Plaza complex. Maybe she deserves some recognition. Recognition is earned after years of proving yourself. He'd cut her off. It's not a participation trophy. The Metro Plaza project won 3 architectural awards. My name wasn't anywhere on the paperwork. The email he sent me that week is burned into my brain. Don't sign the drawings. You're not at that level yet. This is for your own professional development. I was making $45,000 a year when the average salary for my job was $120,000. But I stayed for my mom to keep the peace she was so desperate for. Then came March of 2024. The doctor's words were blunt. Stage 4, pancreatic cancer, 3 to 6 months. That's when Mom started meeting a guy named David Reynolds every Tuesday. Estate planning, she'd say with a weird little smile. Just getting everything in order. My father, on the other hand, got bolder the sicker she got. By September, he wasn't even pretending to look at my work before stamping his name on it. The Century Tower project showed me just how greedy he really was. A $500 million development, 47 floors of a revolutionary green design. I'd poured 14 months into perfecting every detail, creating something that was going to change Boston's skyline. This has to be flawless, my father had said, as he dumped the project file on my desk. The investors expect Sullivan excellence. I delivered way more than excellence. The environmental systems I designed would save 30% on energy costs all by themselves. The public spaces were designed to bring people together, something city planners would study for years. Every single layout was built for efficiency and comfort. But when the early designs went to the investors, the cover letter said, "I am proud to present my vision for Century Tower. Robert Sullivan." It's just how business works, my mom said from her bed when I showed her. Her voice was so weak. She'd already lost 40 pounds by then. Your time will come, sweetheart. But I found something else out that September. I was going through my mom's papers during one of her chemo treatments, and I found property transfer documents from 2 years before. My dad had moved every single thing they owned together into his name only. The house, the investment properties, even the money her parents left her. It's for tax reasons, he'd said when Mom asked him about it. She was in a total haze from the morphine. Trust me, Catherine, I'm protecting our family's future. Our family. As if I was ever really part of his so-called family. The night before my mom died, she grabbed my hand, and she was surprisingly strong. The foundation, she whispered. Remember the foundation? Emma, I thought she was just confused. They'd already upped her morphine twice that day. I had no clue. She was handing me the key to everything. October 15th, 2024, 3:47 in the morning. My mom took her last breath while my dad slept in the guest room. He claimed all her medical equipment was too loud for him. I'd been holding her hand all night, whispering about the good old days. She'd been unconscious for hours, but I just had to believe she could hear me. The hospice nurse noted the time, said she was sorry, and quietly started making the calls. My dad finally showed up at 6 a.m., all showered and dressed in an expensive suit. How long was the only thing he asked? 3 hours ago. He gave one nod, pulled out his phone, and called his lawyer. Not a funeral home, not our family. His lawyer. James, it's Robert Sullivan. Catherine passed this morning. I need that will reading scheduled immediately. Yes, today if possible. The will was read that same afternoon in our living room, the same room where Mom made holiday dinners for 30 years. Kevin Parker, my dad's golfing buddy and personal lawyer, read the short document like it was nothing. To my beloved husband, Robert Sullivan, I leave my entire estate, including all properties, investments, and cash totaling around $33 million. My father had this little smile on his face, but you couldn't miss it. The same kind of smile he'd get after closing a really vicious business deal. Is there nothing for Emma? I asked. My voice was barely there. Whitman glanced at my dad before he answered. The will is perfectly clear. Everything goes to your father. My dad leaned back in my mom's favorite chair, the leather creaking as he settled in. Your mother trusted me to take care of everything. Don't worry, Emma. You'll be fine. The way he said fine made my skin crawl. Without my mom there to protect me, my job at Sullivan Development was suddenly in danger. I didn't even have an employment contract. My dad always insisted that family didn't need paperwork. My entire career was inside his company. 8 years of my life, but my resume would just say I was an intern at a family business. I lived in the family house, in the same room I grew up in. It was all his now, every single thing. The furniture, the pictures on the wall, even my desk, the one where I designed Century Tower, was his. The morning after they read the will, my office key card stopped working. Security had to call my father just to let me in. Just a system glitch, he announced loud enough for the whole floor to hear. You know how technology is. Emma's still getting used to our way of doing things. Still getting used to it. Right. After 8 years and $40 million in successful projects. But Century Tower was my leverage. Groundbreaking was in 3 months. The investors had already signed off on the designs, my designs. Any big changes now would cost him $50 million in penalties. The final presentation to get the rest of the funding was set for October 25th at the Ritz-Carlton. 300 people would be there. Investors, city officials, international partners. If I just walked away now, if I let him get up there and pass my work off as his, my career would be over. He would absolutely trash my reputation. Just a few choice words about the intern who couldn't take the heat. That night, I got an email from Reynolds and Associates. The subject was urgent matter regarding your mother's estate. It said to call them immediately. I almost deleted it. What could be so urgent when everything had already been given out? My father was in his study on a conference call about Century Tower. I heard him say it, my vision, my masterpiece. On October 18th, St. Mary's Cathedral was packed with 200 mourners. My mom was well loved in Boston's charity world. She'd touched so many lives. The flowers alone took up 3 rooms, roses, lilies, and her favorite purple orchids. My father gave the eulogy like a pro. Eleanor was the ideal partner, he said. His voice had just the perfect touch of sadness. She understood that a man on his way up needs a supportive wife. She never complained, never made demands, always trusted my judgment. He was just making up a whole new history. My mom had been a force of nature, quiet but strong. She's the one who actually built the company's reputation with her connections and class. After the service, everyone was at the reception hall. My father tapped his glass. "I want to thank you all for coming," he started. "Losing Catherine has left a huge void. And always, but I want to assure all of you that Sullivan Development will carry on stronger than ever. In fact, I'll be making a few necessary changes to keep us at the top." He stared right at me. "Emma will be transitioning out of the company within 72 hours. It's time she made her own way out of my shadow. Catherine always protected her maybe a little too much." He paused, letting his words sink in. "She needs to learn how to stand on her own 2 feet. The house, of course, will be part of this transition. A fresh start is best." People in the crowd actually gasped. "Mrs. Thompson?" Mom's best friend squeezed my arm. Even the mayor looked uncomfortable. "Go find somewhere else to die," my father whispered as he passed me, his voice hidden by the shocked murmurs. "Your mother isn't here to save you anymore." That's when my Uncle Frank, my mom's younger brother, slipped me a business card. "Call this number," he whispered. "Tonight, David Reynolds, estate attorney." I couldn't believe it. A father saying that at his own wife's funeral in front of everyone who loved her. If you've ever been betrayed by your own family, you know exactly how this feels. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and hit subscribe if you want to hear how he got what was coming to him. That night, I found my dad in his study, already working on his 3rd scotch. The guests were all gone, and the house felt so empty and quiet without my mom. "You have 48 hours, he said, not even looking up from his laptop. And that's me being generous. I designed Century Tower, every single part of it. Prove it. The files are time-stamped. The security cameras show me on the company servers." He finally looked at me, and his eyes were just cold. "Everything you make on company time with company money belongs to the company. And I am the company. Mom would be disgusted with you. Your mother was weak. She babied you, made you think you were some kind of genius. You're not. You're a nobody architect who just got lucky being born with my last name. Lucky I've worked 14-hour days for 8 years, making $45,000 a year, while you bill clients $200 an hour for my work. Then you should be thanking me for the training. The Century Tower presentation is next week. You need me for that." He laughed. An actual ugly laugh. "I already hired Harrison Associates to look at the plans. They'll make any changes. Your amateur work needs a professional to clean it up anyway. Amateur the Metro Plaza won 3 awards. My awards? My designs? My signature is on every single document." He stood up, towering over me. "You have nothing. You are nothing without the Sullivan name. And after Monday, you won't even have that. I'll go to the investors myself. With what proof you're an intern, I'm about to fire for being useless and trying to steal credit for my work. Who do you think they're going to believe? I just turned to leave." 8 a.m., Monday, he yelled after me. "Be gone by then, or I'll have security throw you out." October 19th, 7 a.m. I was at Reynolds and Associates on the 25th floor of the Credential Tower. Michael Reynolds himself met me in the lobby. He looked serious but kind. "Your mother was a remarkable woman," he said, taking me to a conference room. It had a huge view of the city. My mom was always one step ahead. He put a folder on the table. "The will they read at your house was real, but it wasn't complete. There's an addition as she filed with my office 6 months ago." My hands were shaking when I opened it. It was Mom's signature, dated April 15th, 2024. It was 12 pages long, but Reynolds showed me the important part. If Robert Sullivan commits any act of cruelty, abandonment, or denies Emma Sullivan her inheritance within 30 days of Catherine Sullivan's death, all of his assets will immediately be transferred to the Catherine Sullivan Foundation, with Emma Sullivan as the permanent chairwoman. Mom knew. She knew everything. The stolen credit, him taking your money, your father's affairs. He looked at me. Yes, plural. She documented every last thing. Reynolds then pulled out a tablet. She also recorded this. Mom's face appeared. She was thin but looked so determined. The date was June 2024. Emma, if you're watching this, it means your father has finally shown his true colors. The foundation has been around since 2022. I've been moving assets to it slowly, legally. Your dad's signature is on everything. He never even reads the stuff I give him. The foundation controls 45% of Sullivan Development through a bunch of different holdings. Once you get the inheritance, you'll have the majority share. But about the will, your dad already broke the rule at the funeral. I've got 12 sworn statements from people who heard him kick you out. And I've got this. He played a recording. It was my dad's voice, perfectly clear. Find somewhere else to die. So when do we make our move? At the Century Tower presentation. That's where we'll get the biggest impact with the most witnesses. Reynolds laid the whole plan out. It was brilliant. I never knew my mom was playing the long game like this. The Catherine Sullivan Foundation was set up as a charity, but there's a catch. He told me it can own businesses, as long as 60% of the profits go to certain charities. Your mom picked ones that help women get into architecture and engineering, and they can't ever get rid of me as the chairwoman. Your mom made sure your dad could never fight it. She had 3 different psychiatrists check her out every month while she was setting this all up. Every single document is bulletproof. The foundation already owned parts of Sullivan Development using shell companies. It took them 2 years to slowly buy up 45% of the shares. My dad was just signing whatever papers mom put in front of him. He had no idea he was giving away his whole empire. With the $33 million moving to the foundation, you'll have enough to buy another 6% on the open market. 51%. Total control. But you only get that money if he doesn't break the rule. And he broke it. Big time. In front of hundreds of people. Reynolds just smiled. Your mom even knew he'd do it at the funeral. She knew he couldn't help himself once he thought he'd won. The presentation on October 25th? It's perfect timing. That's when he'll be weakest. His ego will be through the roof. And the whole Boston business world will be watching. When we drop the bomb, there's no way he can spin it or cover it up. Then an email from my father popped up on my phone. Your office is empty. Your stuff is in boxes by the service door. Don't make me call security. Reynolds saw the look on my face. Let him think he's won. Just 5 more days, Emma. October 20th, 11 p.m. The building was pretty much empty. Just a couple of people working late and security. They'd already deactivated my key card, but I still had my old maintenance code, something my dad never knew about. He never paid attention to the small stuff. The server room was humming. Every single design, every change, every time stamp. It was all right here. 47 different versions of Century Tower, all logged under my name. There was no way to fake the metadata. Creation times at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Hundreds of hours of work while my dad was asleep at home or out at the country club. I plugged in my drive and started downloading everything, not just Century Tower. 8 years of projects, and they all showed the same thing. Me working all night, him giving the presentations in the morning. Miss Sullivan! I whipped around. It was Ryan, the night guard. He'd seen me come into this building at crazy hours for years. Hey, Ryan, just grabbing some personal files. He looked over at the server, then back at me. I heard what went down at the funeral. Your mom? She was a good woman. He stopped for a second. Just so you know, we've got security footage of all those late nights you pulled. Seriously. Yes, 7 years worth. It shows you in here grinding away till sunrise. And it shows your dad rolling in at 9 a.m. sharp. He gave me this. My cousin works at the backup site. Tell him I sent you. He can get you copies the real deal with official certificates. Ryan, look, your mom. She brought my little girl soup when she was sick. She visited my wife during her chemo. Your father? He just shrugged. After 15 years, he still doesn't even know my name. The file's finished. 2 terabytes of proof. Thank you, I whispered. Make it count, he shot back. The next morning, my phone started blowing up with messages I never expected. 3 senior architects from Sullivan Development all hitting me up privately. Saw what went down at the funeral. That wasn't right. Nicole Chen, sorry. Nicole Adams, the lead designer. We all know who really designed Century Tower. Brandon Taylor, the project manager. Your mom would be so proud of you for standing up to him. Then Amanda Collins, a senior architect. But the call that really floored me came from William Foster, the chairman of Sullivan Development's board. Emma, we need to talk. In private. We met at a small cafe in Cambridge, way outside the Boston business district. Foster looked exhausted, older than his 52 years. I've been on the board for 15 years, he started. I've watched your father take credit for your work since day one. The board noticed. We all knew you were the one who really designed Metro Plaza. Then why didn't anyone say anything? Your mother asked us not to. She said she had a plan and we needed to wait. Catherine could be very convincing. Besides, she's the one who got most of us on the board in the first place. He slid a folder across the table. 5 other board members are ready to vote him out if we have a good reason. Your father's been getting sloppy arrogant. That stunt at the funeral, it disgusted everyone. October 22nd. A letter shows up by courier. Your employment with Sullivan Development Corporation is terminated immediately for failure to meet performance standards. My father had CC'd his entire industry contact list. By noon, LinkedIn was buzzing with talk about nepotism and entitled millennials. Then Foster texted me. He just gave us our reason. Document everything. Reynolds replied with just 4 words. Perfect. 3 more days. October 23rd. My father just couldn't resist twisting the knife a little deeper. He'd set up a press conference at headquarters. Officially, it was to preview the Century Tower presentation, but it was really just to tear me down in public. 50 journalists were crammed into the conference room. The Boston Business Journal, the Globe, even some national reporters covering the huge project. I watched the live stream from Torres's office. Before we discuss Century Tower, my father began, his voice full of fake sadness. I need to address a recent personnel change. It's never easy when a family member just can't cut it professionally. I tried for 8 years to mentor my daughter to help her develop real skills. He paused, for effect, a total showman. Unfortunately, even with every opportunity, she couldn't perform at the level Sullivan Development requires. I had to make the tough call to let her go. For her own good, really. She's got to make her own way, not just ride on his coattails. A reporter asked, Mr. Sullivan, word is she designed a huge part of Century Tower. My dad just laughed. Emma helped with some basic drawings. Nothing creative, nothing structural. The vision, the new ideas that comes from experience she just doesn't have. The LinkedIn posts started popping up right away. Sullivan CEO shows tough love. When family ties fail, a cautionary tale. 500 comments in an hour. Most of them were cheering on my dad's tough but necessary move. Tomorrow, he announced, you'll see the full Century Tower presentation. My masterpiece, 20 years of work, all leading to Boston's next great landmark. Reynolds paused the video. He's given us everything we need. He's trashing her name in public. It's slander, and it's all on tape. He cracked a smile. Your mom would have loved this. He's taking himself down with his own giant ego. My phone buzzed. Ryan got the footage. 7 years worth, all verified. Ready when you are? This was it. The moment everything was about to change. 300 of Boston's most powerful people were about to see the tables turn completely. So what do you think happens when a whole life of lies gets blown up in front of everyone who matters? Drop your predictions below. And if you're getting into this story, please share it with someone who needs to see it. October 24th. Reynolds' conference room turned into a war room. 3 lawyers, 2 accountants, and a court reporter went over every single detail. The restraining order is all set, Reynolds explained. The second your father broke that agreement, the foundation got the legal power to freeze every asset in dispute. Judge Anderson will sign it tomorrow morning, 1 hour before his presentation. We went over all the proof one last time. The audio from the funeral was perfectly clear. 12 sworn statements from witnesses, all official. The server log showing I did the work. Ryan's security tapes. 7 years of me coming into the building at night, working till dawn. But the knockout punch was the video my mom recorded in June. She looked straight into the camera, her voice solid even with the pain meds. I, Catherine Sullivan, being of sound mind, am testifying that my husband, Robert Sullivan, has been systematically taking credit for our daughter Emma's work for 8 years. I've watched him pass off her designs as his own, refuse to give her the credit she deserves, and cash in on her talent. Century Tower is 100% Emma's creation. I have the first sketches she ever drew at our kitchen table, dated and signed. Robert hasn't drawn a single line of it. This plays right after he's done bragging, I asked. At the perfect moment when his designs are up on the main screen. We'll hijack their whole system. The hotel's tech team is already on board. They have a court order they have to help us. Foster called. The board members are all coming tomorrow. We'll be ready for an emergency vote the second the truth comes out. I couldn't sleep that night. Tomorrow, 8 years of being humiliated would finally end. My father was finally going to face the music. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Your mom would be so proud. It was Ryan. October 25th, 3 p.m. The Ritz-Carlton ballroom was stunning. The place was decked out. Crystal chandeliers, huge windows looking out over Boston Common, and 300 chairs filled with Boston's elite. On stage, a giant screen showed the Century Tower logo. My design. His name was right under it. I was just standing at the entrance. Of course, my name wasn't on the list. I'm sorry, miss, the security guard said. You're not on the list. She's with me. Reynolds appeared holding a court order. Judge Anderson requires Miss Sullivan's presence. We walked in right as my father took the stage. He looked like a king in his Italian suit. He was just soaking in the attention. The mayor was in the front row. 8 major investment firms had people there. The architecture critic from the Globe had his recorder ready. Ladies and gentlemen, my father started, today, you'll see my life's work. Century Tower isn't just a building. It's a revolution in green city design. The screen flashed to my first sketches. He'd even kept my handwritten notes in the margins. He was too arrogant to even notice they were in my handwriting. Every line, every angle shows decades of experience and innovation. This morning, 8 firms committed $200 million based on these designs. My designs? I caught Foster's eye from the board section. He gave me a slight nod. 5 other board members were sitting there ready. My father clicked to the next slide. It showed the environmental systems I'd spent 6 months perfecting. The energy savings alone will be 30% a year. I came up with the system after years of study. That's when Reynolds stood up. Excuse me. Mr. Sullivan. The whole room turned. My father's smile twitched. I'm afraid there's a legal matter we need to deal with right now. This is a private event, and this court order makes it my business. Reynolds walked toward the stage. So shall we get on with it? My father recovered fast, the salesman in him kicking in. He actually smiled wider. He waved a hand at Reynolds. Everyone, please excuse this little interruption. My lawyer friend here must have the wrong address. Maybe we can handle this after. I insist we handle it now, Reynolds said, his voice firm. He was standing right at the foot of the stage. My father laughed, playing to the crowd. You see the price of success? Even at your best moments, there are always complications. Then he looked straight at me. He'd finally noticed I was there. Some people just can't accept when they're not part of the story. The room got tense, but my father just pushed on, clicking to the next slide. The big finale. This atrium design will redefine public spaces. Notice the perfect math, the artistic vision. It took me months to get these angles just right to balance beauty and function. I knew those angles by heart. I'd worked them out during my mom's chemo sessions. The numbers were the only thing that made sense while she slept. 10 years of my expertise went into this project, he boomed, which is why I had to make tough decisions about my team. Some people just weren't able to understand this kind of sophisticated work. The mayor nodded like he understood. The investors leaned in, eating it up. In fact, just this week, I had to fire an employee who tried to take credit for this. Can you imagine an intern with no real experience trying to steal Century Tower? You could hear people gasping all through the room. He was tearing me down in front of everybody who mattered in Boston. He looked right at me and said, "Sometimes people need to learn their place." Reynolds pulled out his phone. "Mr. Sullivan, are you finished?" "I'm just getting started." "Perfect." "So are we." Reynolds walked onto that stage like a man holding a royal flush. The court order in his hand caught the light as he walked to the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry for the interruption, but this is an urgent legal matter." He held up the document. "This is a court order from Judge Anderson signed this morning. It's about Catherine Sullivan's estate and who really owns the project being presented today." My father's look changed from annoyed to worried. "This is totally out of line." "What's out of line, Mr. Sullivan, is fraud." Reynolds' voice echoed across the silent ballroom. "On October 18th, at Catherine Sullivan's funeral, you broke a binding legal clause in her will." He pulled out his phone and hooked it up to the sound system. My father made a move for the mic, but Reynolds just stepped aside. 200 witnesses heard you say this to your daughter." The recording played crystal clear through the ballroom speakers. "Find somewhere else to die. Your mother isn't here to protect you anymore." Gasps shot through the room again. The mayor's jaw was on the floor. A bunch of people pulled out their phones and started recording. This triggered a special clause in Catherine Sullivan's will. Reynolds kept going. "All assets, including the $33 million you thought you inherited, were immediately transferred to the Catherine Sullivan Foundation. And Emma Sullivan is the permanent chairwoman of that foundation. This is ridiculous. Furthermore," Reynolds said, his voice rising over my father's yelling, "the foundation already owns 45% of Sullivan Development Corporation from shares Catherine set up over the last 2 years. With the inherited assets, Ms. Sullivan now controls 51% of the company you claim to run." The board members shot to their feet. Foster spoke up loud and clear. "We need an emergency board meeting, now." I walked onto the stage holding my laptop and a USB drive. The ballroom was completely silent. 300 pairs of eyes followed my every move. My father just stood there, frozen, his face flashing from disbelief to rage, and then to fear. "Since we're on the subject of Century Tower," I said to my voice perfectly calm, "let's look at the real story." I plugged the USB into the presentation system. The screen flickered, showing file details. 47 versions of the Century Tower designs, every single one created under my user ID. Look at the timestamps: 2:47 a.m., 3:15 a.m., 4:32 a.m. While Mr. Sullivan was sleeping, I was creating his masterpiece. The screen changed to security footage. 7 years of surveillance video verified by the building's security systems. Here I am, January 15th, working until dawn on Metro Plaza. February 9th, up all night on Harbor Square. From March through September of this year, 212 hours, logged after midnight, all on Century Tower. Ryan had made a little highlight reel. The audience watched me go into the building in the dark and leave at sunrise. Day after day, year after year. William Foster stood up. "I can confirm this." The boards had its doubts for years. They knew Emma was the real brains behind Sullivan Development. Then the screen changed. My mom's face popped up thin, but looking fierce. I, Catherine Sullivan, being of sound mind? "Daske, Do swear that my husband, Robert Sullivan, has been stealing credit for our daughter Emma's work for 8 years. The room just blew up. Reporters were typing like crazy. Investors were whipping out their phones, making frantic calls. Every single design you saw today, I said looking right at them, wasn't my father's. Every innovation you loved, I created them. The proof is solid. The truth is out. My father's mouth was moving, but no words came out. Reynolds got back on the mic, his voice cutting through all the noise. As of right now, the Catherine Sullivan Foundation legally owns all the assets in question, the $33 million, the properties. And most importantly, 51% of Sullivan Development Corporation. He turned to my dad. Mr. Sullivan, you no longer have control of the company you've been running. 3 investors in the front row jumped to their feet. We're pulling our deal, one of them announced. We invested in Century Tower because you lied to us. Our $200 million commitment is gone, another one said. My father finally found his voice. This is entrapment. It's a setup. It's justice, Foster said, walking onto the stage. As chairman of the board, I'm calling an emergency meeting right now. All board members present. 11 hands went up in the audience. Motion to vote no confidence in CEO Robert Sullivan. Seconded, another board member yelled. All in favor. 11 hands shot up. Only my father's stayed down. Motion carries. Robert Sullivan, you're fired as CEO of Sullivan Development Corporation. Effective immediately. Security guards appeared at the edges of the stage, but not for me this time. They were there to escort my father out. The board nominates Emma Sullivan as interim CEO. Foster continued. I stepped up. I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to have to decline. I'll take the job of Chief Design Officer, the role I've really been doing for 8 years. The board can find a CEO who actually has some integrity. The room burst into applause. My father just stood there on the stage all alone, his whole empire falling apart in front of him. You can't do this, he whispered. It's already done, Reynolds shot back. Your wife made sure of it. The board moved fast and clean. Foster kept everything under control, while my dad's world just collapsed. We also need to talk about the lies told to investors, Foster announced. Mr. Sullivan, you've put this company at huge risk, taking credit for designs that weren't yours. My father grabbed the mic one last time. This is my company. I built it from nothing. With your wife's money and your daughter's talent, Foster shot back. Security, please get Mr. Sullivan off the stage. 2 guards started walking toward him. My dad backed away, his face turning purple with rage. You ungrateful brat, he pointed at me. After everything I've done for you. You mean everything you've stolen from me? I kept my voice steady. Professional. 8 years of my life for $45,000 a year. While you build my work at $200 an hour, that ends today. The mayor stood up, making it clear he was done with him. All right, I've seen enough. The city's gonna review every single Sullivan Development contract for fraud. A reporter from the Boston Globe raised her hand. Miss Sullivan, are you still going to build Century Tower? Absolutely. But this time, everyone's gonna know who really designed it. We're changing the contracts to show the truth. What about your father? I looked over at him, stuck between the 2 security guards. The board will figure out if there's a job here that fits his actual talents. I'd suggest advisory consultant, Foster chimed in. He'd have very little power and report to the chief design officer if he even accepts. My father's humiliation was complete. CEO to consultant, reporting to the daughter he'd been stealing from. Never, he spat. Then you don't have a role here at all, Foster said flatly. Your choice. The guard started walking him toward the exit, right past 300 people who just watched his downfall. He made one last desperate attempt to save himself. This is a setup. My wife wasn't in her right mind when she made these changes. I'll challenge every single document. Reynolds just pulled out his tablet. Catherine figured you'd try that. She had 3 separate psychiatrists evaluate her every month from January to September of 2024. They all confirmed she was 100% competent. Want to see the reports? My father stopped struggling. The fight just drained from his face as he finally understood how carefully my mom had planned everything. His phone rang. He put it on the speaker, probably just out of habit. Robert, this is Stephen from the country club. The board just held an emergency vote. Your membership is revoked, effective immediately. Right after another call came in. Mr. Sullivan, Boston Business Alliance. Your keynote speech at next month's summit has been canceled. The Globe's photographer caught that exact moment. My father just standing there with his phone watching his entire social world collapse around him. That photo would be on tomorrow's front page with the headline, Sullivan's House of Cards. Dad, I said quietly. Everyone turned to listen. Mom left you a letter. It's in the foundation papers. Reynolds handed him the envelope. My father's hands were shaking as he opened it. I already knew what it said. Mom had shown me a draft. Robert, I gave you 30 years to be the man I thought you were. You chose a different path. I'm protecting Emma not out of spite, but out of love. The foundation will give you a reasonable salary if you work honestly. It's your choice as always. He crumpled the letter in his fist. I don't need charity from my dead wife or my ungrateful daughter. Then you need to leave, Foster said firmly. Now security escorted him all the way out. 300 people watched in silence as Robert Sullivan left his own event in total disgrace. Within an hour, the story blew up on every news site and social media platform. The Globe's website actually crashed from all the traffic. Breaking news. Sullivan CEO exposed in a massive fraud scheme. Daughter reveals 8 years of stolen designs. By October 26th, it was the #1 trending topic in Boston. The Century Tower Truth video hit 2.3 million views. The compilation of security footage Derek gave me went viral. It showed a time lapse of me working thousands of nights while my father took credit for everything. CNN Business picked up the story by noon. Their headline, The Architecture of Deception. How one woman exposed corporate fraud from within. Then Forbes ran a profile, Emma Sullivan, the real genius behind the Boston skyline. My phone was just blowing up. 15 different architecture firms offered me a partnership. MIT called, wanting me to speak at their Women in Architecture event. The American Institute of Architects pushed my fellowship application right to the front of the line. But the messages that really got to me came from other women in the industry saying, "Thank you for being brave enough to speak up." Another wrote, "Your story gave me the courage to start documenting my own situation. My boss has been stealing my designs for 3 years. I'm meeting with a lawyer tomorrow." The Wall Street Journal article was what really destroyed my father. Sullivan Development's stock shot up 12% after the leadership change, which showed investors had more faith in honest management. Reynolds sent me a full breakdown of the numbers. 450,000 shares of the story in 48 hours. News coverage in 12 countries. 3 documentary producers asking for interviews. Your mother would be amazed, he said. She always wanted justice. This is a revolution. The Century Tower investors met again that afternoon. All 8 major firms were back in, but on one condition. I had to be the official lead architect. One of them finally said it. We know we're investing in the real talent. The change at Sullivan Development was fast and total. Foster led the board through a complete overhaul over the next week. First on the list was a deep dive audit of all projects. Every single design, every credit, every signature. 5 senior architects, who knew what my father was doing, were fired on the spot. They'd put their names on my work knowing the truth. Clean house, clean slate, Foster announced at the all-hands meeting. We started a new transparency policy. Every design contribution was tracked, credited, and paid for fairly. A junior architect would never have their work stolen again. The Century Tower partners insisted on meeting with me in person, no one else. It was in the same Ritz-Carlton ballroom where it all went down with my father. I presented my complete true vision for the project, every innovation, every calculation with my name on it where it belonged. This changes everything, the lead investor said. We're not just funding a building. We're funding a new generation of honest leadership. They raised the funding to $500 million with extra money for a mentorship program I pitched, a program to bring young female architects onto major projects. The stock went up another 8%. The Business News said it was because people trusted the company's integrity again. 3 major clients who were about to walk away from Sullivan Development changed their minds. We stick with companies that own their mistakes and fix them, one of them told me. Nicole Adams, who'd had my back in private, became the new head of design implementation. Brandon Taylor took over project management. Amanda Collins was promoted to senior partner. The talent was always here, I told the board. It was just being held down by one man's ego. By November 1st, Sullivan Development had become the textbook example of how to handle a crisis with total honesty. Harvard Business School even asked for permission to teach our story. As for my family, it was a mess just like you'd expect. Relatives who hadn't talked to me in years suddenly started calling. My dad's sister, Aunt Patricia, called a few days later. Emma, honey, I always knew you were the one with the real talent. Your father could never have made something so amazing. I told her, you were at the funeral, Linda. You heard what he said. You did nothing. Her excuse was, well, family is complicated. No, it's not. You chose his money over me. It's that simple. I hung up. 3 other relatives tried the same thing, all of them wanting back in my life now that I had the money. I made a simple rule. Anyone who stayed quiet back then doesn't get to celebrate with me now. But Uncle Frank was different. He's my mom's brother and had slipped me Reynolds's card, the very first clue I had. Your mother planned this for 2 years. He told me over coffee. She made me promise to only step in if your father crossed a line at the funeral. She knew he would. He's always cruelest when he thinks he's won, she'd said. I asked why she waited. He said she wanted to give him chances to change. Even while she was dying, she hoped he'd show some decency. The clause in the will was her final test. He took a breath. She also wanted to be sure you were strong enough to deal with the aftermath. My father went completely silent for 3 months. No calls, no texts, not a word from his lawyers. He moved out of the family house into an apartment downtown. His penthouse was sold to cover his legal bills and debts. Then I found something that changed everything. In my mom's safe, under all the legal papers, were 53 letters she'd written to me over 2 years. One for every week she was planning. She explained every choice, every single thing she did to protect me. My darling girl, if you're reading this, it means you've already won. By January of 2025, my father's total downfall was public knowledge. He was still banned from the country club. His name was quietly dropped from charity boards, work groups, and high society lists. The financial hit was bad, but not cruel. The foundation gave him enough money to live on, so he was comfortable, but not rich. He'd never starve, but he wasn't living in penthouses or driving Italian sports cars anymore. But the damage to his social life cut way deeper. Boston's high society runs on reputation and connections. He had destroyed both. Old friends would literally cross the street to avoid him. Business partners wouldn't take his calls. The mayor's office dropped him from every city advisory role. Then 3 months after it all came out, a formal letter arrived at the foundation. It was handwritten, not typed. It was my father's handwriting, but it looked different, smaller, more careful. Emma, I've spent 3 months in therapy. The board made me go if I want any job at the company. Dr. Harrison has forced me to face truths I've been avoiding for 60 years. I now see what I refused to see for 32 years. You were the talent, the vision, the future. I was just a salesman who got lucky marrying your mother and having you. My narcissism, that's Dr. Harrison's word for it, made me believe I should get credit for everything. Your mother's connections, your designs, even the foundation showing me mercy. Now, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a shot to earn a small place in the company I claimed I built, but that you actually created. Robert. Foster brought it to the board. He's asking for an advisory position. He'll have limited hours, and he'll report to Emma. He's only allowed to handle vendor stuff where he actually knows what he's doing. What do you think? They left it up to me. He gets 3 months probation. One lie one time he steals credit, and he's gone for good. That's being nice. It's what Mom would have wanted. 6 months later, March 2025, 1,000 people came to the groundbreaking for Century Tower. The mayor talked about a new, honest way of doing things in Boston. The governor praised leaders who do the right thing. I was standing at the same podium where my father had his downfall, but it didn't feel good. This wasn't about getting even. This was about making something real. Century Tower isn't built on lies. It's built on truth. I started. Every beam, every angle, every single new idea comes from the person who actually had it. This building will prove that you don't have to cheat to succeed. My father was sitting in row 10, not on the stage, not in the VIP seats. He wore a plain suit, not some fancy Italian one. He was taking notes during my speech. I think it was the first time he'd ever actually listened to me. Sullivan Development was completely different now. Our profits were up 30% under honest leadership. Our employees were happier than ever. Our system for giving people credit became the new standard for companies all over the country. The Catherine Sullivan Foundation had given $5 million to MIT for scholarships for women in architecture. 23 young women were already in school. Because of it, their tuition paid, their dreams supported. Success built on lies always falls apart, I told everyone. But success built on truth, that's how you leave a legacy. After the ceremony, my father walked up to me. For 6 months, we had only talked when it was about work. The speech was great, he said quietly. Your mother would be proud. She knew this day would come. She knew everything. She did, didn't she? She knew enough. He nodded, started to go, but then he turned back. I'm proud too, for what it's worth. It's worth something, I said. Not everything, not yet, but something. The new rules with my father were simple. They were professional, and I wasn't going to bend. Dinner once a month. Last Thursday, 7 to 9 p.m. Exactly. We didn't meet at the family house. I sold it and gave the money to the foundation. We met at quiet restaurants, public but low-key. How's the Riverside project? He would ask. On schedule. The client loves that we're upfront about the costs. I remember when I pitched them. You mean when you pitched them with my early designs, right? He'd wince. But he didn't argue anymore. Looks like Dr. Harrison was actually helping. At the office, we kept things strictly business. He went to vendor meetings where his contacts were still useful, but every single one of his emails had to be approved by Amanda Collins first. Every idea he had was written down. When you shatter someone's trust, sorry isn't enough to fix it. I was thinking about the Morrison account, he said at dinner one night. Put it in a memo through the proper channels, even if it's just an idea. Especially if it's just an idea. We document everything now. The hardest talk we had was in April. I want to apologize in public, he said. Dr. Harrison thinks it will help. Help who? Me, obviously. But maybe others too. Other men like me who have stolen credit and buried people's talent. A public apology would just be for show now. So what would be enough time? Consistency. Years of him actually respecting my boundaries, not pushing them. You stole 8 years of my life. You don't get to rush this. He just accepted it. I mean, what choice did he have? I told him straight up, we're colleagues, not the family we used to be. We're not enemies, just co-workers with a really messy past. That might be all we ever are. Your mother wanted more. Yeah, my mom wanted a lot of things. She settled for protecting me instead. That's her real legacy, knowing when hope just isn't enough. In the end, the best thing my mom gave me wasn't the money or control of the company. It was permission to choose myself. Her last letter, written 1 week before she died, laid it all out. My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, your father has shown his true colors, and you've shown the world who you really are. I didn't give you wealth. That was always yours, earned with your sharp mind and hard work. I just set things up so the truth would have to come out. Power isn't about controlling other people. It's about making something that actually matters, something that lasts longer than our own egos. Your designs will be around for generations. Your father's lies have already fallen apart. I stayed way longer than I should have, hoping he'd change, hoping you would never need any of this. But hope without action is just kidding yourself. So I made a move quietly and carefully, building a fortress of legal papers and accounts that would only activate if you needed it. You're probably wondering why I didn't do this sooner. The truth is, I had to know you were ready, not just to face him, but for everything that comes after. Power takes wisdom. Success takes grace. You have both of them now. Don't go for revenge. Go for getting your name back, your work, your worth. Set boundaries. Don't think of them as walls, but as bridges with toll booths. Some people earn a free pass by always showing respect. Others have to pay the price of limited access, and for some the bridge is just closed for good. All three are valid choices. Your father is who he is. That's his weight to carry. Your job is to choose how much of it you're willing to help with. Choose smart. Choose based on your own healing, not on his comfort. Build beautiful things, my darling. Build them with the truth. All my love, Mom. I folded the letter and put it back in the safe. Tomorrow they were placing the first beam for Century Tower. My name was going to be on the cornerstone. Finally, right where it belonged. The foundation had grown to 100 million in assets. The mentorship program had gone nationwide. My story had even sparked new proposals for laws about giving creators credit for their work. But tonight, I was standing in my own apartment, one I bought with my own money, looking at my own designs on my own drafting table. Nobody else's name was ever going to overshadow mine again. That's the real inheritance my mother left me. The solid as a rock knowledge that I deserve to be seen, to get credit, and to be valued for exactly who I am. Boundaries aren't mean. They're necessary. Self-respect isn't selfish. It's survival. And sometimes the greatest love a parent can give is teaching their kid when to stop hoping and start protecting themselves. That's where my story ends, but I hope it's where yours begins. If you're dealing with family who try to tear you down or steal your shine, remember that you deserve recognition for what you do. You deserve to have your boundaries respected, and you deserve to be with people that actually see you for you. So yeah, thanks for listening. You're worth it. You're enough. And you don't need anyone else to sign off on your